Hello and welcome to Hearing Your Future, the Coding Your Future podcast. My name is Duncan, I'm your host, and I'm on a mission to help you design, build, test and code your future in computing. In this podcast we'll talk to current and former students of computer science to find out more about their journey from student to professional. What's their story? How are they coding their future? What obstacles have they faced and how did they overcome them? Finally, we ask our guests what advice would they offer their former selves and fellow students, and where are they headed next? My guest today is Ivaylo Iliev. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science in 2023 when this episode was recorded. Welcome, Ivo. Could you just tell us a little bit about, tell us what's your name and where you come from? I've already introduced you, but who are you?
So my name is Ivaylo Iliev, but just call me Ivo. That's easier for everybody, and that's anyway what everybody calls me. And I am from Bulgaria, from Sofia, the capital.
Right.
And right now I'm a final year student, going to graduate in a couple of months. Actually, in a month.
So You've just had exams. You're in the middle of exams. So thank you for coming in the middle of exam period. You've got exams at the moment. So how many exams you got left?
I got only 2 exams total, and I've not done any. So that's good. It's not going to be anything too much, and I'm kind of calm about everything right now, so it's fine.
Good. So if we can take a step back to the beginning. So why did you decide to come in? So not why Manchester, but why computer science? What was it about studying computer science that interested you? Had it been something from a long time ago, or?
So it's quite interesting because honestly, when I had to choose, I had like a year and a half before I started uni, and I had to kind of choose what I wanted to study. It was between a lot of things. I had business in mind because I had been doing a bit of startups back then. Computer science definitely, since I was in a mathematical high school. And a lot of the people over there went to do computer science or something software engineering related. And there were a bunch of other things, but I think definitely the big choice was between business and computer science. And definitely the thing that pushed me over a little bit into computer science was that I wanted to get something tangible, something that I can see, some skills that I can practically do. And get myself some kind of a job that way.
So that kind of applied aspect of it, the kind of vocational, I suppose, aspect of computing is kind of part of the interest.
Yeah, definitely, and as well since it's related to mathematics, definitely. And I've always had this kind of interest. I mean, I used to be a gamer. I always had interest in computers, how they work, why they do the stuff that they do. And yeah, I was always fascinated by computers. So that was kind of an addition to all of it.
Okay, good. So you arrived here 2.5 years ago. Was that after lockdown, or was your first year in lockdown, or?
Yeah, so
just after? It's all been a bit of a blur.
Definitely. Well, for me as well, honestly, because when I arrived in September 2020. Was kind of in the middle of the pandemic, or like at the start-ish of the pandemic.
Right.
It was like March, I think it started. And I went here hopeful that everything is going to be fine and there's not going to be any more lockdowns. And unfortunately, 2 months later, so I was in Manchester just for 2 months. And then I went back home because there was imposed lockdown. And I thought of myself that since everything is online right now, I might as well just do it from home.
Right.
And so fast forward basically a year and something after that, and I came in Manchester honestly quite recently, just January last year. So 2022, I've had kind of a year and a half here.
Right. Okay. And so I know you did a summer internship was that the end of your first year or was it the end of your second year?
It was the end of my second year, in the summer between second and third year. So last summer, basically.
Right. So, and did you do anything in the summer of first year, or were you were just at home?
So I really tried doing a couple of things. So first, I became part of a society, game development society, that we were working on a game, and I wanted to kind of extend that into the summer.
Right.
And also the other thing that I was searching for internships, honestly, but I couldn't land one. I was very ill-informed and didn't put too much effort into it. But eventually I got kind of not a role, but I was helping some like a startup as a voluntary work. But both this and the Game Development Society kind of they didn't continue through the whole summer. They kind of fell apart. So basically, my first summer between first and second year was like a bit of a hanger because I didn't. I wasn't really able to get any serious internship and any real work done.
Right. Okay. So you came back into second year, and you'd done sort of bits and pieces in the summer. That was in Bulgaria, I guess, was it?
So that was for a UK startup and for the society that's in the university. So I tried to direct myself
Unix,
to the UK.
Part of Unix, or the game dev part of Unix, or
game dev part of Unix, I think.
Right.
I think it was, yeah.
Okay. So then, in your beginning of your second year, I guess you kind of did that make you think, actually, I do want to get a summer internship next summer, and then did you start looking in September, or how did that work out in your second year?
So it was kind of mixed because I definitely wanted to get an internship, but at the same time I didn't really have the capacity, especially at the start of second year, didn't have the capacity to get my applications done and look for companies kind of, and so the result of all of that was that I came here in like January and I had to study for exams, and at the same time it was high time that I start applying and start looking for companies and positions. I mean, looking back now, I think I was very late doing that, but still I did my exams, and then after that immediately I focused on applying.
I suppose sometimes summer internships advertise a bit later in the year. So if you had been looking for a placement, sometimes these get advertised at the beginning of the academic year, September. But sometimes summer internships sometimes get advertised a little bit later. Has that been your experience, or would you think you would have been better applying for summer internships from September rather than you started in January?
I mean, I would definitely prefer to have started in let's say September. But I think for me, from what I've seen, it's more about, I guess, definitely for placements, people want to get it out of the way, like companies want to get it out of the way sooner rather than later, while summer internships is a different thing. But I've seen that, I mean, banks definitely want to get out all of their internships and finish with selecting candidates until like December, let's say. So
right.
I had virtually no chances for banks.
Right, okay. So you mentioned there so one choice that students face is like, should I do a summer internship or should I do a year-long placement? And so I was interested to know, like, why did you choose a summer internship rather than a year-long placement?
So the deciding factor for me, because I had an offer for a placement and for a summer internship, I had two offers, and the deciding factor for me wasn't whether I wanted to do one or the other, but rather the companies and the positions that I was selected for.
Right.
So yeah, definitely I was open to both of them. I thought that it would be good because obviously in a placement you do get a whole year of experience, but at the same time, if you don't get a placement, then by the time people finish their placement, you already graduated, so that you can start a graduate role.
Yes, yeah, it's quick. I guess it's quicker, right? So you graduate sooner. You don't pay fees for that year, which is probably, I think, I don't know if it's a factor in your case, but I know some students say that's a factor. It's like, well, I don't want to pay fees for that year at university, even though you're not really at university, you're part of the university. So which organisation were you employed by? Because we haven't actually mentioned this.
I went to work in Amazon Web Services in their London office. So
was that remote or in person, entirely in person, or a bit of both?
It was honestly a bit of both, but I really, really wanted to be in person for the whole time. And I think this was a great decision because I found out soon that it brings you a lot of value to actually go in the office, meet people, and like make these sorts of connections.
I think especially early on in your career, definitely, I would say that. I think once you become established, it's kind of easier to work remotely. But I think at the beginning, is that those kinds of social interactions are somehow perhaps more important than they are later on, because you're looking for mentors and guidance and learning from people who've done this sort of stuff for years. So so what was your role at Amazon Web Services? So this actually came up as a question in the, because you came to a presentation to first years about this, and someone said, "What's a solutions architect?" And I don't think we actually had time to answer the question, but what is you were a solutions architect, right?
Yeah,
so what
partner
does a
solutions
architect do? Because that's kind of, to some people that name means nothing. I mean, I kind of got an idea what it is, but what does a solutions architect do?
Oh, I don't blame them, because the first time I saw they sent me the test for the position, I was like, oh, why did I apply to this? And then I read the description, I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. But yeah, basically, solutions architect is a role which entails many different responsibilities. So on one side, the way they explained it to me, and I found it, is on one side you have to be very capable of knowing the services that they provide in terms of cloud, and the way these services can interact with one another, and kind of being able to look at an application, let's say, that has been deployed on premises, so on servers in-house, and then being able to kind of transform it into a bunch of services in AWS, which are linked together, and kind of creating those sorts of solutions. As well as, I guess, understanding the security part of things, the how costly it is going to be for the client, kind of thinking about all of these things as well.
And so were you talking to clients, or was that done by somebody else in the organization? You were kind of there as a kind of someone would come speak to internally, or was it something where you'd actually go and meet customers yourself?
So my particular role was very much like the technical part was 50% of the work. The other 50% of the work was actually talking to engineers, talking to executives sometimes, and just giving them advice on how they could better understand the cloud and better make use of the cloud in order to kind of fulfill their business needs and business goals.
Right. Okay. So the kind of business stuff is kind of in, I guess, because you mentioned you were interested in that. So some computer scientists aren't very interested in business at all, but I guess you kind of were perhaps more than some students I know who kind of don't really care about the business side of things. You enjoyed that aspect of it as well as the technical side, right?
Most definitely. I think that's a way better role. It's way more suited for me as somebody who has had experience actually talking to like being a founder myself first, doing startups, and then not only that, but also talking to different kinds of people. I'm used to doing that. I'm very much enjoying that. I wouldn't be able. I quickly realized while I was doing this internship and chatting with friends about what they're doing in their software engineering internships, that it's definitely not for me to sit for the whole day and just write code. It's definitely a way more enjoyable process for me to know the technical side of things, how they work and why they work, but also being able to communicate that on a daily basis with other people.
And actually doing both, like, and it gives you that variety, right? Because you're not just talking to customers the whole time, you're also then, I guess, implementing things or kind of figuring stuff out, how the services work. You must have learned a lot about, it's a very complex ecosystem of services on Amazon Web Services, and just learning about that, you could spend years learning that stuff, couldn't you?
Definitely, yeah.
So I know you talked about this in your talk a little bit, but what were the main obstacles you faced in finding employment, and how did you overcome them? I mean, one thing you mentioned there was sort of perhaps not being informed as well as you could have been in the process. So how did you overcome that in your job search?
So in my job search, I mean, definitely the advice that you gave us in first and second year, like throughout the years, I have kind of remembered some of the stuff that sometimes you tell us, like a quick tip, oh, you can use this website to find jobs or whatever. But definitely these pieces of advice, I came back to them and really helped me get through all of this, because at the beginning you're just sitting alone in your room and you're like, I know I have done some stuff, but how does that transform into the real world, and who would be able to give me money for that, right? So it's definitely a lengthy process, and it's not only a process of searching within, let's say, LinkedIn or Google or GradCracker for jobs, but it's also searching within yourself. And I think that's kind of been underestimated, that you need to kind of think about what exactly do I want to do? Like what do I want my work to kind of look like or feel like? based on different things that you've done before. So for me, as I said already, I had done work communicating with people. At that point in time, I had also been doing presentation skills training. So I knew that I had to do some communication, right? But then as well, I'm studying computer science and I love computers and technology. So I knew that it had to do something with technology as well. So I was applying to, the standard software engineering positions because you want to take these expectations of the job, but you also want to get something realistic on the other side. So I applied to all the software engineering positions, but I also applied to many product manager positions,
Right.
or like internships, placements, because they've been popping around quite a lot recently, and all sorts of like technical, but also communication type of roles. And even though I didn't get selected for any of the, let's say, project or product management roles, I feel like that was a good opportunity for me to kind of explore. Because honestly, the thing is that the solutions architect position, as I told you, I don't know why I applied to it at first.
You probably ticked a box somewhere without realizing.
It was basically, I just went on the Amazon website and everything that spoke technology to me, I just signed up for
Right.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I would have kept only to software software engineer, which a lot of people do, I would have definitely missed a very, very good opportunity.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting is that there are lots of roles besides software engineering. People think of software engineering because that's the most obvious route, but you mentioned product manager there. You weren't successful in getting the product manager jobs, but what is a product manager and what does a product manager do typically as a role?
Well, as far as I'm aware, it's I've done it only on an ad hoc basis in my own projects, but it's more about coordinating different parties in the in a soft, like in a technological project. It's more about not writing code, but rather understanding how let's say people who do the code work, how the other side, let's say the investors or the executive side of things, how like the stakeholders, how they what do they expect, and kind of linking all of those together.
Understanding what's going to be part of the product, what service that you're building, and what's not, what it's going to do, sort of defining what it is that the team is building.
It's about thinking about the wider picture, the bigger picture. That's something that I've found myself doing.
Okay, good. So, you mentioned you've been applying to software engineering positions. So, what was your experience of coding interviews? How did you find those? Okay, were they difficult? Was there any particular challenges there?
Well, I was kind of lucky to have some experience in coding, because I started even at the beginning of high school. I started doing competitive programming courses at school. So I already had
what sort of Olympiads, that kind of thing?
Yes, in C++. So I had this kind of fundamentals that I could step on and really go on from there. So for example, data structures, algorithms, let's say more than half of these things I already knew. But yeah, that helped me immensely in the interviewing process, because it wasn't, a lot of people they do lead code and then they start from zero, and it's definitely a hard process. But for me, it was more like kind of reminding myself of the things that I kind of already knew, as well as learning a bit more stuff. And then that's why most of the coding interviews, like the first coding interviews, I didn't find, let's say, the doing part difficult. So kind of thinking about how to, what algorithm you need to use. I guess the thing I found a little bit harder is the analysis of that afterwards. So let's say in terms of time complexity, in terms of space complexity. But the good thing about it was that courses in computer science at Uni of Manchester do provide you, I feel like, with a bit of background about those as well, so that you are able to figure that out.
But are those kind of skills, how useful were those kind of skills in being a solutions architect? Was that important? Was it kind of knowing about, space and time complexity of algorithms? I'm guessing wasn't so important as a solutions architect. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what people ask me all the time. Did you have a coding interview? And I'm like, no, I didn't have a coding interview. It was networks that,
Right.
that I got asked about. And they didn't ask me any coding questions. So space complexity, time complexity never came up in the application process or the job up until now.
Right. Okay. I mean, I guess, would that be different if you'd applied for pure engineering roles at Amazon? If you were applying for a pure software engineering role,
Definitely.
would it be like you'd be hammered with those kinds of questions?
Oh yeah, you'll definitely be as you said, hammered by these questions, and you'll be expected to perform very well on those.
Right. Okay. Good. So, what for you? I mean, you sort of talked a little bit about this. What do you think were the main things that you learned through your summer internship? What were the things that you felt that you took away?
So, to give a little bit of context, I had come from a background that was basically way more related to startups and small companies, and I had kind of immersed myself into that kind of field. And the internship at a big corporation like Amazon gave me the opportunity to see how a big body works and why it works and what they do exactly. So this was I think one of the most useful things. I mean, along the usual cloud and services knowledge, right, that they inevitably teach you. But yeah, kind of looking at a wider organization and what processes need to be in place, and it is quite different from a startup. I came with a lot of presumptions that things would happen that way. It would be way more fast, and then you are faced with all of these processes that lengthy processes that you need to you need to arrange a meeting with this kind of person. Oh, well, they're very busy all of the time. So, yeah, they say, yeah, sure, I'll schedule a meeting with you in 3 weeks. And I'm like, I'm free tomorrow. So it's kind of a different environment, but at the same time, it was extremely inspiring to see to see such a successful organization, because the first thing I notice about everything, and the thing I always tell people when they ask me how was the work, how are the people, I'm like, the people over there, all of them have most of the qualities I would search for in a co-founder if I had to make my own startup. And that's amazing, because usually it would be extremely hard to find those kinds of people. But definitely they're very skilled, but also they're very very communicative, and they're very open to feedback.
So they're not necessarily, because sometimes people get, you hear the phrase corporate, like people described as, that's a corporate person, but actually it sounds like within the people that you came into contact with were more, I don't like this word, but it's quite a good word. People talk about intrapreneurs.
Yeah.
So you have an entrepreneurial mindset, but you're working inside this massive organization, global organization. But you as an individual behave perhaps a bit more like you've done as a co-founder or as somebody in a startup.
Definitely. My project over there, the funny thing about it was that they just gave me like a random, not a random, but a very broad topic,
right,
to look at, so it was basically related. They told me, what can we do in terms of sustainability, or something like that. Let's say with kind of a little bit more details, but very very much as broad as this. And so they kind of put me in this pool of limitless directions and ideas, where they left me kind of alone in that, and they wanted to see how I was behaving in that sort of environment, what I would do. And the thing that they really liked about me throughout the whole internship is that I was able to, just like an entrepreneur, to have something that's very, very vague, very broad, and kind of get on with it, take responsibility and ownership for it, and kind of arrive at.
So you mentioned that word ownership's interesting, because I think is that one of the Amazon principles? I mean, almost anyone I know who has worked at Amazon or does work at Amazon before too long, they tell me about Amazon principles, and I know ownership is one of the, is it 10, 11 principles of Amazon?
Yeah.
So they actually, and they're not just sort of principles that they write down on paper and say, yeah, and then forget about. They do actually take them quite seriously, in my experience. Is that...
Definitely. I was quite surprised because I saw them, and I knew that they like HR would ask me on those, but I was quite surprised to learn. For example, after I did the technical part of the interviewing process, so I did like a test, and then we had this sort of interview where they would just ask me about different technical topics. And after that, they told me, oh, you've managed to go to the final round, and there's 2 interviews. And out of the 2 interviews, like 70-80% of the time, we were not talking about anything technical. It was all about the leadership principles. Right. I was like, oh my God, like they really value those. And when you get into the company, you realize that I think even it's documented which leadership principle is your best at, and then which one you can improve on. But they take it really seriously. And
I guess that's then part of sort of promotion as well. They promote people based on those principles, not just...
Definitely. They take them into account really, really seriously. And then the funny thing is as well that a lot of the people over there, and I kind of started doing this, maybe you recognize it from there, it's just in their speech, they regularly include those kinds of leadership principles. They reference back to them. So that we're all bursting out ideas, but they're tightly put together. So that we can put them into the context that we are in.
Right. Okay. Good. All right. That's interesting. So learning to sort of operate in a big corporation's probably an interesting experience. Got another question here. So what was the most enjoyable or rewarding part of that in terms of your day-to-day work? What would you say was the most rewarding part of it?
So in my opinion, it was again linked back. So one part of it was linking back to the people over there, and that it's very enjoyable to work with them. Because throughout work you can encounter some people that, let's say, are not that open to sharing ideas or you critiquing their ideas, receiving feedback, kind of stuff like that. Wow. In Amazon, at least in my experience, it was very rewarding to be kind of working with those kinds of people. By the way, I have to make the disclaimer that everything that I say right now is my own opinion and not of the company.
Sure. Okay, yeah.
I just have to say that.
No, that's fair enough. So good. Fast forward then, you finished your summer internship. You come back to university. And you have a final year project. Can you tell us a little bit about what your final year project was and what you did?
So my final year project was related to the smart grid. So this is basically a concept of the electrical grid that we currently have, but kind of modernizing it and allowing free flow kind of information and making it more efficient, basically. So in that kind of system, so the way like a lot of algorithms already developed to battle this kind of efficiency of electricity used, and I was working on the encryption part of it, like privacy preserving, which kind of makes it way more practical in a real environment, because in the real environment everybody wants to, not everybody, but there are some people that want to steal information, use it for malicious purposes, and that's what we were kind of battling.
Right. Okay. And was this a project you proposed yourself, or was it something that you picked from the book?
It was something that I did pick. Right. It was a project that my supervisor...
Who was your supervisor?
Mustafa.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, so it was quite fun working with him, and I think it was quite interesting, an interesting right. project to me.
Okay. Good, all right. And then the last bit of this is, so you're graduating in a month's time. A bit more than a month's time.
Yeah.
When is graduation? July the something?
Yeah.
November 17th. Anyway, so you, what comes next? I mean, once you've had a break and recovered from exams, what comes next?
So the thing that's surely happening is I'm gonna be returning to AWS and continuing then there in their like graduate program, but it's actually like just a full-time role.
So is that like is that just sort of continuing what you did before, or is it like a thing where you do a rotation and you work in different parts of the organisation? Sometimes you have that in graduate programs. It's
what they call the TechU program, which means first 6 months you are just studying about the cloud and communicating with clients, and then after this kind of training 6 months, then
TechU as in you. you person or you university or?
I guess that's what they call it. I have no
I hadn't
idea.
heard of that before. So TechU, right?
Yeah, that's what they call it. I mean, I recommend it to anybody that has interest in cloud. And then, so after these 6 months of training, then you go on to be integrated into an actual team, and then you just start full-time work.
Right, and that'll be in London again, I guess?
Yes, that will be in London. But yeah, that's the kind of more, let's say, formal part of it, like the work part of it. While I'm constantly working on side projects. I'm thinking of more doing more kind of lecturing and speaking in the future. So there's a lot of exciting things going on ahead.
Yeah, I know I thanked you at the time, but I'd like to thank you again for the record. Thank you for coming and talking to First Year, because that was one of the... it's quite difficult to find speakers who can engage with the audience, right? You can find people to come and talk about their organisation. That's not very hard. What's difficult is finding somebody who can talk knowledgeably about an organisation, but also engage with the audience. And one thing that happened at the end of yours, I mean, you got some pictures of it. Maybe you can put them on. This is big queue of people coming and talking to you after. That's my measure of, has a talk been successful? If lots of people come up at the end and talk to you, then you know you're winning, basically. So thanks for doing that. That was a really good talk.
Yeah, I think definitely there is a need for students, because we have a lot of, we have ever more information available to us, ever more opportunities to choose from, and at the same time, it's a matter of Gen Z, like the new generation. Now it's not as new of a generation, but the generation I'm in, I have seen studies, and I have seen for myself as well, that we are definitely not ready for this kind of information to be able to kind of crunch it and make a choice. And that's what I find most people struggle with, is that we are supposed to be more independent than ever in terms of making our own choices. But what I've seen in studies is that people are even more getting used to, let's say, leave home later. Like they rely on their parents way more in terms of financials, in terms of where to live, but also in terms of like emotional support and kind of this decision making. So long story short, people don't want to make choices, but they have to make a lot of choices right now, even ever more.
It's an American expression, but the fire hose, people talk about the fire hose. There's just this kind of fire hose of information blasting at you about opportunities that there are and things that you could do, and it's like you're saying, you're searching inside yourself as well as searching inside the fire hose. It's a big challenge, I think, for most people.
It's definitely like an enormous challenge, and that's the reason why I did. I think I told you this story about how I decided. Did I tell you how I decided to do? Okay, so I was just having coffee and cake with a friend of mine. We go out probably once a month or so, and he's a good friend of mine, and we were talking about just life in general, and he told me, oh well, you're done with you're done for life, like you got a job at Amazon because you're like so smart and a genius. And I'm like, no, I am definitely not. I mean, smart maybe, but definitely I'm not definitely a genius. I'm not any better in terms of, let's say, technical skills than the other people. It's just that I knew what to do, or found out how to do stuff, so that I can get a significant advantage over everybody else. And then he was like, oh really? And then I looked at his CV, and he had, because he's studying biomed, I think, or like neuroscience, stuff like that, and he had like work with the professor in the lab and essays and high scores. And I was like, how are you not getting a job? And then he showed me like the format of his CV. I was like, okay, that's why. And then immediately after I went home, I remember I just wrote a one-pager, and I sent it to you, and I was like, take a look at that. I'm coming tomorrow to discuss it. Because I knew that there are a lot of people that have the qualities, but they don't know how to go about stuff.
It's like how to articulate it in a way, or then knowing which bits to articulate as well. Like what bits are relevant, what bits is a potential employer going to be interested in. Because some of what you've done isn't that interesting. I mean, it might be interesting to you, but it might not. It's less interesting to other people. But then the flip side of that is the stuff you've done, like this biomed guy you're talking about, is he doesn't realise the value of what he's done, because it's either buried in his CV somewhere, or it's on page 2, or it's not on there at all. And you're like, actually, you need to give that a lot more emphasis, because that's really interesting. That says something about you as a person that an employer will actually care about.
Yeah, I just think that students nowadays, and I used to be like that as well, they think that if you want to get the good job or a great job, that you have to be smart or a genius, right? And that's just like 50, even maybe like 50, less than 50% of the whole work. And the other 50% is like thinking about where are you gonna apply, how are you gonna apply, what are you gonna say on your interview, like on your CV as well. So it's all about those kind of little things, but they make the difference, really. They did for me.
Good, that's good to hear. So I hope you enjoy your job at Amazon when you start, when you continue there. So we'll move on to we've got a few sort of standard questions here that I ask all the guests. The first one is, this one's called "You Are the Next Vice Chancellor." So the Vice Chancellor of the University of Manchester has been serving since, when is it, 2010? So after a good few years of service, she's stepping down. I want you to imagine that you are now the Vice Chancellor. You have responsibility for 11,000 staff and 40,000 students and a network of 500,000 alumni around the world. What are you going to do? What would be the sort of things that you do as a Vice Chancellor?
Ooh, that's quite a big responsibility. Definitely. I guess the things that I would first start to focus on is the things that we've just talked about. It's just kind of helping students gain that confidence and gain access to the useful sort of resources. So instead of, because I mean, already everybody has access to, let's say, job boards and LeetCode and HackerRank, so they'll learn how to code. But the things that they don't really have access to right now is, as you said, people that have already gone through the process, that can speak from experience. Employers that not only tell stuff about their company, but how they actually went about, let's say, getting the job, or how they think students should go about the whole process. I think in an age of so much information, there should be more, I mean, I don't want to say forced activities, but things that students need to go through, and talking with, like, let's say, PASS, and not only PASS 1, PASS 2, and also one-to-one consultations with students or people, or like recent graduates. I think it's really, like, it's the first thing that I'm gonna go about and establish.
It kind of sounds naff when you say it, because it's sort of like people talk about networking, but that's kind of what you're talking about in a way. It's like just kind of meeting people who at different stages in their career, because they can all help you, and most people are actually quite willing to help other people.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, I've realized that you
only have to ask, right? And there's,
exactly.
there's no shame in asking. What's the worst that can happen is that they could say no, sorry, kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. That's,
you find someone else.
Yeah. Most of the good opportunities that I've had in my life have been through just kind of looking at people and then saying, oh, I think this person might be very, very useful to me. And the other thing is people kind of have this idea in their heads that they have to look for the opportunity. So they have to they have to kind of imagine the perfect opportunity, and then if they see it, they grab it. While in my experience, I've seen that just exposing yourself and kind of putting yourself out there, and not looking or searching for a specific thing, but rather just throwing yourself and seeing what comes out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading a commencement speech. You know, at American graduations, they have these commencement speeches where they get a big wig in to come and do a talk. So I was reading one from Bill Gates, who was talking at Northern Arizona University. One of the things he was saying is that you don't have to worry about the first step, right? Because your life is, that first step is the first act, right? So you're not going to be doing that for the rest of your life. So you don't need to worry too much whether that first step is right for you so much as just try it out and see where it goes. The worst that can happen is that you decide, okay, that's not for me, I'll try something else, kind of thing.
Definitely.
And I don't know, I anecdotally, I see that quite a lot in students, where it's like making that first step is a bit scary, because it feels like, well, if you're going to banking, say, it's like, well, not sure if I want to work in banking for the rest of my life, kind of thing. But there's no such thing as a job for life anymore. So try it and see what you think of it.
Yeah. So kind of as a sum up of all of this, as a vice chancellor, I would definitely create opportunities for people to do some networking and kind of.
Do you mean sort of online networking or face-to-face or a bit of both?
I mean, I guess a bit of both, but I would prefer face-to-face because I think that's where it most naturally develops. And yeah, kind of giving students that opportunity to, by chance, meet people and discover, oh, they're doing something I'm very interested in. Let's contact them and we can make something out of it.
Yeah, okay, good. Anything else as Vice-Chancellor? I mean, that sort of networking, I think is quite important, but anything else?
I guess maybe a little bit more funding towards volleyball, but that's a personal thing.
Is there a volleyball club, part of the Students' Union, or?
Yeah, there are quite a few.
And you were part of that, I guess.
Yeah, I am. I've been playing for a year now, but yeah, I feel like some sports. Let's say that some sports get more priority over others, and I feel like.
And some universities are sportier than others as well.
Definitely.
In the UK, places like Loughborough and Bath and places like that are very sporty universities, have very, amazing sporting facilities.
I mean,
but
yeah.
You've had good facilities here in Manchester.
No, but yeah, and I think there is a lot of potential in a lot of the sports because, I mean, Loughborough is a sports school, but we almost beat them at volleyball. So.
Right. Okay. Good, okay. So the next one is more of a personal one. This is called One Tune, One Podcast, One Film. And I understand you've got a book as well you want to recommend that we can sneak in there. So,
definitely.
Can you recommend us a tune that something that perhaps makes you relax or whatever, something, and tell us a little bit about why this tune is important to you, and we'll add it to our Coders playlist.
All right, that's good. I mean, I thought about this question because I listen to a lot of music. I think last statistic Spotify said I listened like 10 or 15% of my life last year had been music.
On Spotify?
Yeah, on my life, including sleep. So
the subscription's worth it then.
Oh, very much. But yeah, so I wanted to come up with or like remind myself of something that it's like everybody can kind of relate to that. So what I picked is a song called, it's a very, very famous song called Hall of Fame by The Script and will.i.am. And basically I play it whenever I feel down or I feel that stuff isn't happening right now. And then it kind of brings me back that energy to keep moving forward because things are going to be all right. And then just keep looking, keep your eyes on the prize, basically.
Right. Okay.
And just keep working and you get what you...
Okay, so we'll put that on the Coders playlist. The next one is a podcast. Do you listen to podcasts much?
I listen to very few ones, but I do definitely have a recommendation for a podcast. I just listened this week. Yeah, I just listened the Lex Fridman podcast. Right. With Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI.
Is that an AI podcast? Or is it a technology podcast?
It's none of it's neither. It's a podcast where basically interesting people go on there and talk about very meaningful topics. So let's say like Jordan Peterson has been on there, and it's not only about like propaganda and talking about the things that they just do, but I think Lex Fridman has the ability to really reason with them and provide a lot of perspectives, and I think that that's why I would recommend it to everybody because there's always a topic.
It's called the Lex Fridman podcast, or does it have a name? Is it just what do people search for in their podcast?
Well, if you search for Lex Fridman, you'll definitely find it. But now.
The name rings a bell, but I can't think from where from. So he's had
Lex Fridman podcast, yeah.
He's had guests like Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO.
Yeah, there's also Magnus Carlsen, the chess player, Mr. Beast of YouTube, right?
Okay, yeah.
Chris Voss. So there are a lot of different, very interesting.
All right. And then one film. I don't know if you're a big film buff, but is there a particular film that you think we should go and watch right now? Old or new? It doesn't have to be something.
I think one movie that really stuck with me, but I don't. I mean, disclaimer: I don't watch a lot of movies. but sometimes I do. And those who are really good, they stuck in my head. And so the one I would really recommend is Interstellar. I know that a lot of people have watched it. It's quite popular, but I still feel like I can watch it again and again and still find like still reason about different things.
Right.
One of the most, let's say, I guess important, let's say, inspiring things about it all is no spoilers. It's fine. It is when different characters have different sense of time. So let's say they go to some planet and then they come back and they've been there for like 2 hours, but it's been, let's say, 20 years on the ship.
Right.
So it's kind of thinking about the idea of time and how fast it may go sometimes. Because when I look back now, I'm like, when did I start uni? Like it's gone so fast.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
So this kind of idea about time really sticks with me.
We'll come back to time travel in a minute in our next question. But I understand there's a book you wanted to add to this list as well. So.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about this before we started the podcast, but that people don't really read a lot nowadays, right? Not books, anyway. But I think I'm a big advocate of reading books. And
when you say books, you don't mean Kindle. You mean an actual paper book, like a novel, or you're not fussed on the format that you read it in? I'm
not too fussed. I mean, I have right now. I have a book halfway through on my Kindle. I have a lot of books that I'm halfway through, like physical books, but I also have audiobooks.
Right.
So different. Yeah, for me, it's
kind of weird what a book is anymore.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, the one I would really recommend is one of the first books I read. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
And that's quite an old book, isn't it? That's been around for a long time, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it's been around for at least 20 years, if not more. But it's one of those kind of classics that it's what do you call it?
Non-fiction.
Non-fiction, yeah, exactly. But it's this kind of classics in non-fiction that you can always read and you can always find a lot of like something to learn from it, right? And it's absolutely fundamental, I think, for everybody that's just starting life and they wanna do life right. If you can do that, but yeah, it's you can apply it to various situations and it's really useful.
Good. Okay, so that brings us to our last question, which is time travel. You mentioned interstellar time travel, so I've got a time travel machine here, and you're going to step on that time machine. You're going to go back to meet yourself in first year, arriving here in Manchester from Bulgaria. What would you tell yourself? Something that you've learned while you've been here that you perhaps wish you'd known when you started? And not just for you, but perhaps all students.
Well, because I mean, personally for me, I would say never go back for, let's say, a year and a half. I think for a year back in Bulgaria, just stay there because you're gonna learn a lot of stuff here. It's gonna be a useful experience. But for, I guess, something that could be used in a wide variety of contexts is mainly to give yourself chances, give yourself more chances, and don't be too fixated on marks. Because I used to do that a lot, especially in first year. I mean, it's kind of natural. I was very ambitious and wanted to really hammer on the grades. I wanted like 80 plus. But as I went through the university life, I found out that it's not actually the marks that matter. It doesn't matter as much what you have on your diploma, but it's more like what you know and what you can do and the opportunities that you have here. Kind of, I would want to throw myself a little bit more into the opportunities, because computer science at uni of Manchester especially, it gets tough in year 2, and then it doesn't get easier after that. So there's definitely a lot of pressure on you at all times. But
it's a sort of bit of a culture change, because in school you're just, the classic thing is you're told to work hard and get good grades. And that determines what universities you can apply to. Then you arrive at university, and I think it's almost like an algorithm. People carry on. Well, I got the best grades I could at school, so I'll carry on doing that at university. And actually at university, it doesn't matter so much. I mean, you need to do the best you can, but like you say, it's important to kind of engage with all the other stuff that's going on around you besides the just got to get good marks.
Definitely. Well, especially in computer science, because at this point you don't even sometimes you don't even need a diploma. Like I have a friend of mine who we studied together in high school, and then we both went to university, but he did his own, he started his own startup, and he's my age now, having a company, a major share in a company that he founded that is valued to millions of dollars right now. So there's this path as well. So I mean, I'm not saying quit university. Definitely, it's a good idea to keep on studying, but there are all sorts of opportunities. It's about it's not about just getting the good marks. But it's about studying and learning stuff, and then thinking about, okay, what I want to do next. If I want to do a master's and then PhD, maybe having good marks is very much linked to me having a very, very good knowledge of the fields. Then maybe go for marks. But think about what you really want to do, because not a lot of people go into academia, and that's for a reason. So, no, I mean, it's just one thing that you can do.
Yeah.
It's not that you have to do this.
Yeah.
And it's not even a big thing. It's a good thing if you want to do it. But then if you don't want to do it and you then try to do it, it's going to be a nightmare, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. I think on that course we'll finish up. So thank you, Ivo, for coming on the show, and good luck with whatever comes next. Well, good luck with moving to London and carrying on with AWS.
Yeah.
And thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And I want to point out now, if anybody wants, if you're thinking about something that I've said in this podcast or anywhere that you've heard, you as a listener, I would really encourage you to just write me a message. If you want to ask about something, I'll be very comfortable.
I'll put contact details,
definitely,
and stuff on in the show notes, so people have got those if they want to.
Definitely, it's free time. Usually, people pay for career consulting or stuff like that. It's free. Yeah, it's free help. So
good.
Look out for it.
Great.
But yeah, thank you again for inviting me. It's been a pleasure doing that.
Good. All right. Thank you for listening to Hearing Your Future, the Coding Your Future podcast. You can find out more about this episode and all the other episodes, including full transcripts and show notes, at cdyf.me. That's Charlie Delta Yankee Foxtrot Mike Echo. You can also find us on all the major podcast platforms by searching for Coding Your Future. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you found something useful to help you start coding your future today.